Hello.
Hello,
You
welcome.
didn't sing clap.
There we go. I mean, it works. Well, I'm recording it all as one. So,
I know.
oh yeah, I didn't, and I still don't most
Okay.
of the time. Um, for a long time, Eric has to explain it to me every time. Anywho,
Okay.
welcome to the book club, episode
It
3.
is the third of 13.
That's true. We are a decent chunk done.
Mm-hmm.
Math. I'll put it there.
I would
Uh,
say no. I was gonna say
mm,
we've entered like the mid-range of the books, but that's not true at all.
yeah, like I think the wide window is maybe the end of like the preamble of the books. It feels like we do actually get some interesting VFD references. I don't know if you saw them or caught them.
No, not that I remember, but so I'm excited for you to point them out. Can't wait to
Yeah,
see your notes.
yeah. Like I really gave it my all this one.
Excellent.
I will say with this book, with it being over the course of like what 3 days, I think 2 or 3 days.
No. We're there for a week before Captain Sham shows up.
Oh, were they already there for a week? I mean, I guess that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then it's like 2 days from when they meet Captain Sham to the end of the book.
Right.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. Because it's very, like, very quick. So I guess that week, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, they're there. But they're not there for long. Like, I guess it's
No.
maybe longer than they were with Monty.
I don't think so.
No, because he was in like 10 days.
Right.
So less time. Now we're at 9 days. So,
Yeah. So you've been wrong about everything you've said. Maybe you. Sorry, that was mean.
no, 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 no. It's astute. It's astute. Um,
Okay.
do you want to go into the summary?
Yeah, I've got a summary here. So the Baudelaire orphans are sent to live with their Aunt Josephine, a woman she lives in a house that overlooks a lake. It's being described as being as big as an ocean, so I don't know how much of a lake it is. Um, when they arrive, they receive peppermints from Mr. Poe, which they're allergic to, but too polite to refuse. And they meet Aunt Josephine, a woman who is afraid of everything, um, loves grammar, and recently lost her husband, Ike. Those are the three important things
There's
about.
3 things you need to know about her. She is
Right.
afraid. She has a dead husband. She loves grammar.
Yeah. Um, she seems nice, if not cowardly. But soon after they settle in, Count Olaf appears disguised as Captain Sham,
Mhm.
hiding his identity with a peg leg and an eye patch.
Very good.
Immediately after he arrives, Aunt Josephine seemingly kills herself and leaves a suicide note behind, entrusting the kids to Captain Sham. The children use the peppermints to fake an allergic reaction, or not fake, they have an allergic reaction. Um, and they get some time alone and they figure out that the note that is like rife with spelling and grammatical errors is actually clues leading them to where Aunt Josephine is hiding. So they steal a boat, and they go semi-rescue, semi-kidnap Aunt Josephine from her hiding spot.
The intent is
Um,
rescue, but we'll get into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get there. During a hurricane, by the way. And then as they start to sail back, things start to go to shit. They're being attacked by the lachrymose lake leeches, and eventually they need to be rescued, ironically, by Captain Sham, who then feeds Josephine to the leeches and tries to steal away the kids. Um, when they get back to like the dock, Sunny bites his leg off, revealing him as Olaf, and they're safe and free for now.
Mhm. For
And
now.
that's the book. For now.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Hmm.
Um, like I kind of had mentioned it before, but like the book does definitely like it's very like very much faster paced than Reptile Room felt.
It felt a lot shorter than I remember it being, and like all of these
Hmm.
books were like, or at least like the first three are like around the same length. Um,
Yeah, like I was like, oh,
Very quick.
we're already there. Oh, okay. This is like I ended up
Yeah,
reading it in about an hour and a half. I think I was just sitting on the couch because I was just like, I'm just gonna finish it. Like just crank it. But
just do it.
and it
Yeah, I was
didn't
really
take as long as I
surprised
thought.
when I texted you and I was like, "Oh, I finished," and you were like, "Okay, bet." And an hour later, you were like, "I'm done."
Hmm. A lot of
Yeah,
times
I
it's
agree.
I like by you doing that, I'm like, oh, well now I have to. Like my freedom of time has run out. It is now a requirement. So
Like I remember getting to like the halfway point, and I was like, "Aunt Josephine's already like dead.
mhm.
This is so fast. There's not much that like
Yeah.
happens left." But
Yeah.
yeah,
There's
I
so
felt the
much.
same.
Yeah, very very quick. I have so many thoughts and well not necessarily so many, but I have like a lot of opinions because I think a big shout out goes to Mr. Poe for also continuing to be dog shit.
Real. He's known these kids for how long? Their entire lives, and he's yet to internalize the fact that they are allergic to peppermints.
Allergic to peppermints,
Like,
or the fact that like they never, not once. This is the third time this has happened. You'd think if the kids have been right about Count Olaf twice, why would they keep lying?
and it's like, again, like even if you're in your heart of hearts you believe that they're wrong and that they're lying, you owe these kids at least one free one because they've been right twice already, and you've disbelieved them both times.
Or it's
And
always a surface level check, you know?
right, and it's again where it's like Count Olaf isn't the only dangerous adult in the universe. If these kids are getting wigged out by this guy, you should like trust that and keep that in consideration.
Absolutely. You'd think like, you just go, hey, well maybe you have someone stay with the kids for a bit, make sure everything's okay. But, it's not during banking hours, of course. Can't do
No, of
that.
course not.
So,
The banking wheel must keep turning.
as it should. I'll call you
Hmm.
back. Gotcha. Mr. Poe, God. Okay, so I have some thoughts about Aunt Josephine as a whole.
As do I.
I wrote my very first note was Aunt Josephine sucks balls and deserves to live alone, idiot.
Okay. That was not my first note about Aunt Josephine is Aunt Jojo's just like me for real, for real. Uh,
Uh,
so
I see that we see her very differently.
I my second note is like she does suck, but at least in the beginning I found the way they portrayed like her paranoia and her anxiety like
Hmm.
at least a little bit relatable.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I agree. I agree. There's very or I guess I think I started writing notes around Captain Sham. So
Mm.
that's where the Aunt Josephine sucks balls comes from because her behavior leaves a lot
Well,
to be desired.
her yes, and I think this is like a very interesting point of just like so often I think people like think abuse is only physical, but like clearly this is an abusive
Hmm.
Aunt Josephine is being abusive towards these kids by so willingly sacrificing them into a situation that she knows is dangerous. She knows will, if not kill them, hurt them terribly. So it was like her willingness to do that to save her own skin is deplorable and awful, and I hate her. She's not equipped to be a guardian in the same way that Monty is or was.
Yeah. They really lost the best thing aside from their parents. Like, given the situation, losing Monty was the biggest problem that they like. That they're never gonna reach that. Aunt Josephine
Right.
just her fear of everything, and it's not even a rational fear, which I guess makes sense because she is paranoid. But like, don't touch the doorknob because it'll blow up into a billion little pieces. Doesn't eat hot food because the oven could kill you, and like
Right.
then you find out that like Ike, her dead husband, also like was just as crazy. So like it worked when there was two of them, but
Yeah, and it seemed like she mentioned like, well, Ike would use like a special oven mitt to answer the phone, which she's also afraid of. But now Ike isn't around and she's not willing or like in a like capable of like taking on that like imagined risk in
it's
the same way that he was.
Yeah. It it really resonated with me as someone who's like been living alone and like having to do everything myself, where like I could relate in a lot of ways to like the like frustration or fear of like it seems silly and it's like yeah, but like it's a lot when you're having to do everything, um
Hmm.
to the point where you choose to do nothing almost because it's safe,
Yeah.
and that's not good.
No, but
What can you, she's
that's
just
life,
quirky,
baby.
that's little Jojo.
She's
I
just silly.
he's the fact that she is immediately swooned by Sham right away
Hmm.
is absolute insanity. And the fact that no one ever questions how pushy Olaf is, like Olaf puts zero effort into like the long game. It is
Right.
I want the kids with me and I do not want them out of my sight every time.
Yeah.
And it's
And
just ugh.
yeah, also, I think it's really interesting how like clever Count Olaf is portrayed as, because it's like he's not just like baselessly flattering Josephine. He like specifically he gets her by being like, "Well, I lost my leg to the
Mm-hmm.
lachrymose leeches," and then she falls hook, line, and sinker because she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "I lost my husband that in like the same way,"
He knows just
and
enough.
he knows just enough to completely fuck with her head, and I think that's so interesting.
Which is surprising because you'd think that like Josephine's a very smart woman, like very or smart person just in general, like very intelligent. And she shows it later where like they get that call and he like wants to set up a surprise, so she kicks the kids out of the room, and then turns out he like threatens her and is like, "You're gonna
Hmm.
go jump out the window and write a suicide note, all right? That's what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm gonna come up there and kill you." So
Right.
it's like, okay, cool. One thing that she had said is that Josephine, when the kids were yelling at her that, like, hey, like, that's Count Olaf, she said that Mr. Poe, quote, said you kids see Olaf everywhere. To which I replied, fuck Mr. Poe. Because, like,
Mr. Poe. Yeah, it's a little bit being like, well, they think the sky is blue, so don't believe everything they
you
say. It's
know,
like, yeah, but they're right.
yeah,
Maybe they
like,
do have like strongly held convictions, but they're right. So who
absolutely.
gives a shit?
Like, you are, like, the level of support from adults that these children get leaves so much to the imagination. To nonsense. It's not just like it's a crime. It should be a crime.
Hmm. It should be a crime. Lock Mr. Poe up.
Jail him behind bars. There was a very short part that I wanted to actually read an excerpt of, if I could. So on page 56, um, like, so this is where this is the beginning of chapter 4, where after they meet, because again, they meet Sham at chapter 4, like, 40 pages,
Later
50
on.
pages in the book.
Right.
Or like that's the night that they're doing it. Um, Captain Sham is certainly a charming person, she said. Must be very lonely, moving to a new town, losing the leg. Maybe we could all have him over for dinner. We keep trying to tell you, Aunt Josephine, Violet said. He's not Captain Sham, he's Count Olaf in disguise. I've had enough of this nonsense, Aunt Josephine said. Mr. Poe told me that Count Olaf had a tattoo on his left ankle and one eyebrow over his eyes. Captain Sham doesn't have a left ankle and only has one eye. I can't believe you would dare to disagree with a man who has eye problems. Klaus then responds, I have eye problems, Klaus said, pointing to his glasses, and you're disagreeing with me. I will thank you to not be impertinent, Aunt Josephine said, using a word which here means pointing out that I am wrong, which annoys me. It is very annoying. You'll have to accept once and for all that she is not Count Olaf. Look at the business card. Does it say Count Olaf? No, it says Captain Sham. The card does not have a serious, or does have a serious grammatical error on it, but it nevertheless proof that Captain Sham is who he says he is. And the part in particular that I enjoyed was the I have eye problems and you're disagreeing with me,
Yeah.
because
That was funny.
it was funny, but it
Like,
also felt very like I felt very seen as a kid of like,
mm-hmm.
so logic doesn't apply. So that's not the reason. That's a bullshit reason.
Right.
And you're
I
being
think there's
bullshit.
like there's a lot of things like that where it's like, well, I trust an adult, but where I don't trust a kid, but like people aren't willing to just say that in these books, at least.
Mm-hmm. like, but and like that's just it. Is it's like I think that's such an interesting, like an interesting take from it because that is a very big theme of these books that kids aren't believed. Like
Right.
people just inherently believe children lie. I think that people who already have preconceived notions tend to project their own behaviors and beliefs onto children to just assume that that's what they're doing or they're covering up their abuse.
Right.
See it time over time. And it's fucked.
Correct.
Absolutely. She. What else did I have? Ooh, there's I want a real quick big shout out, big ups to Gina Sue, a socialist in 2000.
I know. A little bit base.
Hey, Lemony, let's go. Out of curiosity, did you try to solve the riddle when you were reading it, like on the second read through, the from the letter,
Oh,
the Curdled Cove? She writes her suicide notes full of errors that when they
yeah.
study and figure it out, it spells out where she's at.
No,
Oh, I did.
I am dyslexic.
Oh.
I have no shot in hell of guessing whether or not a word is spelled incorrectly or not.
Hmm.
And also, I don't care.
That's fine. Oh, yeah.
So,
I felt like a dork doing it. I'm like, I feel like Kale's not doing this. But I just wanted to see, and I didn't even get it right because I didn't understand. I'm like, where did you get an L from? There's no L.
yeah, it's
Leaded is supposed to be lead, and I'm like, that's stupid.
right. Strauss is a little bit inconsistent about like sometimes he takes one letter from a word that's misspelled, and sometimes it's like the letter that was wrong or the letter that it should be, and sometimes it's like multiple letters. So,
It's a
but
very good little brain teaser. I will admit, it was very fun to try to
fun
figure out.
reading,
But
agreed.
yeah, it leaves a little room to be desired. But like, you could get
Mm,
close.
you can
Um,
get close.
but I did think that was really cool that like the grammar for how much it was talked about constantly was very plot important the entire time. Like
Yeah.
if they would not have figured it out, because she just jumps out. They assume she jumps to her deaths, and like the next day they're gonna be fucked. And because her house is on a
Yeah.
giant bunch of stilts on the side of the mountain overlooking the lake.
Mm-hmm. It's very scary.
Not for her. She loves it.
No. The Woman Afraid of Everything is fine living basically
Mm.
100% over a lake, but
Yeah.
to each their own.
Mm. Well, she's just the fucking worst. There's a part. So once they end up going to the anxious clown restaurant and they get cheer up cheeseburgers, and
Hmm. The restaurant makes me violently uncomfortable. The idea of like clown servers who are like he's a little messed up. Arnold, what's his name?
mhm. Well, you know he's a VFD. He's a volunteer, right?
Oh, oh, yo.
So I went and I realized that we were sleeping on, like, after I read the book, I'm like, I'm gonna go look on the wiki and see if there's any trivia because like I was talking to you before. I'm like, we should start being more comprehensive and stop doing spoiler free because like we're trying really hard to not do that, and it's like, no, that's the whole point. That's what's fun. And um, there's a part where the waiter says, "I didn't realize this was a sad occasion," and there's like a moment of silence, like no one says anything, and you're just like, oh, okay. Way later in the books, you do find out that that is a code phrase for volunteers in VFD, and the proper response, the world is quiet here. That is how, like, that is the code phrase to go back and forth.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
So he was kind of checking to see if they were volunteers. Like,
Hmm.
and now I kind of want to go and maybe I'll go look them up for the next one of if there was anything in books 1 and 2 that I missed that could be fun. Aunt Josephine, or wait, what did I say? Mr. Poe talks to Violet about how like they wanted to like run like they mentioned like running away from Captain Sham because like since like apparently that was her last will and testament, not notified or not notaried or anything, notarized, right?
Hmm.
And if I'm talking too much, feel free to take over.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I took what you said to heart. I'm going fast. Would you? What would your parents think of you running away from your guardian? Mr. Poe said to Violet, and my blood pressure spiked, and I just got it down. Like my doctor says it's good now. It spiked
This
me.
book, more than the other two, has made me want to fucking fight Mr. Poe. Because he's just like, he actively ignores these kids. And he's just like, well, it's my job to like make sure you're safe. And he does not like it.
Mm-hmm. Like, what does safe really mean? You know, like
Right.
he just safe is out of his hair.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
I think
And he's
there's
like, I wish you wouldn't complain so much. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to fucking die here. Fuck you.
yeah, fuck you, man.
Totally
Hey,
ignores
I
me.
really wish you wouldn't have been so incompetent that you've let Count Olaf just run away 3 different times now.
Murder 2 separate people. These murders are on Mr. Poe's hands, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At no point
Charged.
were they ever. Yeah, he should. Like I stand by what I said in the bad beginning that I think that Mr. Poe is one of the biggest, if not the biggest villain. Like more so than Count Olaf, because at least Count Olaf knows what he is.
And at least Count Olaf is like, he is, he like openly is like, I don't care about you fucking kids.
Yeah,
Mr. Poe has the audacity to be like, no, I just want to make sure you're okay. I want to take care of you.
very very like kind of neoliberal, a little bit of like, no, like I just want you to be safe. I want to do I want to like help you, but like
I want to
kind of
do
like
everything
just
within the system.
everything within the system that does not make me uncomfortable in any possibility, and anything that is contradictory to that I'm going to shut down in any way I can.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that was a fun little political take, but I think it's very apt of like that pacifism and type shit.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't remember the exact phrase where it's like, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
political bullshit of like, doing nothing is violence.
Yeah, like
Silence is violence.
silence is violence, that sort of thing of like, those who see evil and do nothing, it's like you just as bad, not acknowledging the shit. It's a whole thing. Trying to think if there, or I'm looking to see if there's anything else. She sells them out.
Yeah.
She 100%. They go to the cave. They notice that the cave has a for sale sign. She's afraid of realtors, which is why she won't move. I think that's the reason why she doesn't move. She is afraid in the house, except near the wide window.
Yeah. It's like something like that where she's like, well, I've just lived here my whole life and I'm afraid of realtors.
It's just, that's how they get her out of the cave. As they say, the cave's for sale. She literally planned on them she's like, did you not bring food? How are we going to live in the cave?
Yeah, she's like, we're just gonna live in a cave forever in the middle of a very like volatile and dangerous lake. And she's just like, that's fine, I guess.
The realization that you start to have that like Violet realizes that you threw a brick out the window, it wrote a whole fake suicide note with errors to help us find you where you would end up being in the middle of a hurricane, as the hurricane's supposed to be coming. And at no point, since Captain Cham, was down at the docks, he wasn't at the house. Like, at no point did she stop and just go, come on, kids.
At no point did she
Even consider them. Well, she did.
anybody. She didn't she didn't contact like the police. Like I guess she's afraid of phones. I feel like she could have walked to an authority of some sort. Like people thinking you're dead buys you some time.
Yeah.
That she just wasted.
If he was going to do something to the kids, then like why not take the kids with you? If he thinks that you died, like the kids are just gone. Like if anything, like they could have just hidden the cave for a few days.
Yeah.
That's it. But they didn't have any food. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm just
Frustrated.
yeah, she had every opportunity to try and save these kids. And at every opportunity, she sold them out. She put her life before theirs,
Tried to
which is
barter.
yeah, and I think the kids pointed out where it's like that's not what a guardian is supposed to do.
Mm-mm.
Like
Absolutely not.
her one job is to keep these kids safe, and she cannot manage that.
It's one of the biggest failures, I feel like, and is the one of the last times that they have a true guardian in that sense, I think. Aside from like Ursat's elevator, maybe. Um,
Yeah, because they have.
well, that's like a pseudo real one.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think
it's
we're
the it's the girlfriend. So it's like she's their guardian, but in no real way. Yeah, because I think after that, like this is the last time they're like in an actual home with like a parental guardian.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think because after this, it's like Miserable Mill, the school.
The
I don't
elevator,
know that
Ursat's
the Vile
elevators.
Village. They have like the Vile Village. They have a guy, don't they? I know the whole pitch
Is
for
it
that one is
Quigley?
like
No, Quigley's the third quack.
Quigley's the third Quagmire. So like in
Maybe the
Vile Village, the
village
whole
just
pitch is
takes
like
care of them.
it's like it takes a village to raise a child, so everyone's responsible for raising you. But I feel like there's one guy, the guy with the crows, that like actually takes care of them.
Yeah, I don't. That's more than I remember. But like at the same time, it's not. It's in no way is it the. I guess yes, that is correct. But like in a home
Right.
with one or two guardians to look after you, like this is your last bit of the last bit of warmth that they would have in their lives died when it left Monty's body.
Yep.
That's fucked, but it's true.
Yeah.
Oy.
They don't even get the warmth of soup in this book.
Never. Not even a
No
tinge.
soup.
Soup. The only okay there's two little teaser points that I have that are the last of my notes, and then the kid ranking. Unless you have anything more, or if we want to go over your notes, I would love to hear them. I didn't mean to kind of steamroll it.
No, it's okay. The alliteration in these books is really starting to get to me. I didn't think
Oh,
it's like it's driving me fucking crazy. Like
really?
Lake Lacrimose, Damocles Dock,
Hmm.
um, all of this stuff is just compiling
Does it annoy
so
you?
much. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I agree. Like it is childish, or like I guess tired is a better word, but
Hmm.
it is just fun because it's like yeah, like these aren't real. Like you could tell like this is I don't know if it's it's
It's a
not a
little
real
bit
story.
whimsical. It's a little bit fanciful.
Hmm.
It adds to the tone, and I hate it. It's driving me nuts.
It's too whimsical for how depressing this is.
Too whimsical. I don't want any levity in my fucking story.
Nah, not a
Not
single
in this
drop.
house. No.
Not.
This is the first book that I ever read of this series,
Oh.
and I feel like that really colors the way that I view it. I'm having a really hard time of like looking at it objectively when I try to think about like what like how I view it in regards to like Reptile Room and like the first book and like
Mhm.
if I like it better because it's like it just holds such like a special place in my heart and like recency bias like it's like well it's the last book I read so it must be the best. It's the one I remember the most. Um but I think that's all my
Yeah.
notes. We had kind of like touched on everything else with
Oh.
like stuff you'd mentioned.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah, like especially since you haven't read them in order. Like, what? It was the first one you read, so it kind of like it just like opened you up. It seemed crazy and out of nowhere.
Hmm. It was the one that like stuck in my head the most. It was the one that I was like it made me want to read more of these books.
Hmm.
And so this it was like very much a baseline for all other books in my head
Oh,
as I read them.
that's a pretty good baseline. That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's all of these books so far have been really, really strong.
Yeah, I am surprised, to be honest, for like what they are, and especially like Bad Beginning. I feel like I've seen a million times or I've read a million times because of
Hmm.
media and stuff. Reptile, Room, Wide Window, like there's a lot in them. There's a lot more than I remember. Like
Yeah.
even though it is a quick read, it also like no, they don't dwell on too much. You don't get to chew the fat a whole lot, but like that's kind of nice. It's a little bit of a
What
nice pace.
happens? Yeah.
And
There's a lot going on in these books, and they could easily, I feel like, be much longer, but like I feel like I don't think you're missing anything by moving at the pace that they do.
no, not at all. I think there's some important points and story beats and little hints of things that
Yeah.
is like the setup of the story that he's really trying to tell,
Hmm.
of the more interesting behind the scenes stuff. Which actually, oddly enough, two things that I purposefully wrote down were some notes about Count Olaf. Is that Captain Sham tied the boat expertly to the dock, which is like, so he's good with like knots and ropes.
Oh, so he's good with ropes.
Yeah, creepy daddy,
Alright.
let's go.
Hmm.
Cantankerous. Ooh, but just like I'm like, ooh, another
Plot point.
skill.
I think it's a plot point later on. Is like knots.
I recall something about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they do a lot of time. They spend time at sea. Um, and then also he Captain Shim includes that like part of his like things is like Count Olaf or whatever is also wanted for like arson. He makes a point to bring up
Yes.
arson, um, which
Which like
is yeah.
yeah, like I can't remember if he actually does start the Baudelaire fire. Fucked up for him to bring up either way.
I don't know if we ever find out who started the fire, but I think it's safe to assume it's Count Olaf. Um,
Right.
I wouldn't do it, but it as we get further in the books where we can like learn about VFD and start to put more and more pieces together, it'll make sense. But VFD is made up of two different sides. There's the volunteers who help put out fires, and then I forget what the other name is, but the opposite start fires. And like
Yeah.
it doesn't always mean actual fire. It's very there's a lot of levels to everything. Like, is the sugar bowl a sugar bowl? Is the schism a schism? I don't know. Sometimes.
A lot of it's left up to interpretation and also viewed through the lens of like the Baudelaire orphans being like, well, this doesn't help my immediate situation right now, so I can't focus too much on this.
Yes.
And you get a lot of the story kind of like halved that way.
Yeah, you get a sip and you don't even have time to figure out what it was, and then
Right.
2 books later you'll be taking a sip and go, "Oh, that's what that was." Got it. Did you read the teaser for Miserable Mill? That's at the very end of the book.
I read a little bit of it. I skimmed it.
It's just like the one page. It's the little note, the letter to the
Right.
editor. The
Hmm.
only thing of value in it that I took out that I think would be curious and I wanted to share because looking for all of these little references now that like we're older and have read more books, um,
Hmm.
the person that they're going to end up working for or in at part of the mill is Dr. Orwell in the eye-shaped office, which
What's
Orwell
he
a
working
giant
for?
huh? Well, I think that's the optometrist at the mill.
That's the optometrist. They don't work for her.
Yeah, regardless, but Dr. Orwell with the big eye, George Orwell, 1984, Big Brother always watching, as well as the iconography of the VFDI. Yeah, I put that together and I'm like, doesn't seem like it was that hard to put together, and I felt
Oh.
bad. But I did feel like, ooh, as a kid, I would not have picked that up. And now I'm curious, since I've read 1984, what, like, now I'm going to go into it with this, like, what am I going to find? My little
Hmm.
sniffer. So,
What are you gonna sniff out?
secrets. So, okay. Do we want to go into child ranking?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, so I do think Klaus gets my number one spot
Correct.
for, yeah, figuring out the letter and finding Aunt Josephine. Um, top tier child behavior. And then honestly, I've been having a really hard time with Violet and Sunny's rankings, and I will either position because I feel like Violet maybe does more in this book by like inventing a flare and
Hmm.
like steering a boat. But the scene of Sunny biting off Count Olaf's fake peg leg is so iconic and so
Sunny.
just like important to me specifically that like it it's very even in my mind.
Okay. Oh, see, I decided Klaus first because straight up they could not have found Josephine without him. And this is one of those books. This is one of those times where the reading is like the fact that Klaus is intelligent, or they're all intelligent, but like his book smart is very fine. Like it really shows that it comes into its own where it is the driving force. Because if he could not have figured that out, because the other two, him and Violet get into a whole fight because she's like, "You're being fucking dumb," without
Yeah,
those words.
putting
But
too much thought into this, and he's like, "No, I'm not."
there's
And then
three
he
things
goes
we
through
know.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which I think is the last time like they really start to doubt each other because they talk about that in the book, the solemn realization that they can only count on each other, which is the only bit of like bright light that they have is
Right.
we only got each other. So Klaus first, I put Sunny second. It was
Okay.
close, and it actually wasn't because of the peg leg scene, but rather because when she steals the keys from the ambiguous person,
Mm-hmm.
with the dated language, I will be honest. It does not hold up in 2023, but it was written 23 years ago. So
Yes.
they really go in on how on how wide that window is of sorts. But it doesn't really matter. Just they could just say like it's a big fucker, and I'm like, okay, yeah, meathead. It's a brute enemy. I understand. He takes two full bars to use a finisher on. I understand. I've played Spider-Man. Um, the part where they're like they need to go steal a boat to go to Turtle Cove in the middle of the hurricane, and they're like, "Shit, how are we gonna get the key? The key is on the guard, like on the person, the unambiguous person, and or the ambiguous person." And
Yeah.
Sunny, they just are like, "What?" And all of a sudden, they just see Sunny had just crawled in there and just fucking like yoinked it. And I think it was the thunder and lightning that spooked the person awake. It wasn't even like Sunny fucked up. And like
Yeah.
Sunny did not fucking hesitate. Did not bother to communicate at all. They just suddenly realized, where is she? Oh my god. Oh fuck, she's in there. Like straight up a
Take
badass.
care of it.
I think it's fair to say Sunny and Violet tied for second. I don't think it's fair to put one and third. So I'll give them points for second. Like it's a tie. Or maybe, yeah, I guess tied
I
for
feel like that's
third.
fair. I think it's usually said tied for third or tied for second,
Tied
but
for second, and a fourth person would just be fourth. There would be no third place. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's right.
Mhm.
Luckily for us, there's no fourth orphan
Not yet.
yet.
Actually, I don't think there is. Well, oh wow, that's funny. You know, Kit may have
There's
something
a
to say with
reason.
it.
There's a reason I've been calling it orphan rankings and not child rankings because I
Oh,
want to put
orphan
the
rankings.
orphans on these lists. Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's fine. I
being
think we should do
sneaky
that.
about it.
You got me. You pulled one over on me.
Mm-hmm.
I also discovered if there is interest to people that are watching, or regardless, just something that would be fun to do. Is did you know that there's a series of unfortunate events video game?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
There's
I've
one for the
never.
PC. Like it's for PC for the old consoles, and apparently the one on Game Boy Advance is absolute hell. That's the hardest one. But I'm
Oh
like, if I could find it on PC, ooh, because
yeah,
it's
that'd
just
be
the first
fun.
three, but first three books, but just to see what the fuck it is.
Yeah, just to see what the because I have no idea how you would make this a video game. I'd heard of it, but yeah, I have no idea what it's about. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I'll look into it, and maybe that'll be like a whole little like special episode. Apparently, you can beat the whole thing in like 5 hours. You play through the game in like 5 hours. It's not you just do it in
Okay.
a day, sort of
We'll make a
thing.
day out of it.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be
Yeah.
a hoot, and maybe if we're lucky, a half.
Oh, it'd be a bit of a silly time. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
Silly hours.
a little bit silly hours. So yeah. Overall, how would you rate the book out of 10? Or out of 13.
Out of 13.
That would be good at the end, is to like rank the books tier list wise. I guess out of 10 as a book, out of 13 of all the books.
Like I said, I'm having a really hard time thinking about it objectively just because it's like it holds such a special place in my heart.
Then be biased.
I think, yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, it's my review. Okay. I think maybe like a 7 out of 10, just because the fact that Aunt Josephine and Mr. Poe make me so fucking mad that I see red and I have to put the book down for a little bit. And like that's very much the intention, but that does take away from like the thrill and the mystery for me at least. Out of 13, or out of the 3 that we've read so far.
I guess, yeah, we'll cumulative ranking, so like we'll always compare them to the rest. We can update them as we go.
So far it's been, I've liked every book we've read better than the last. So far.
Yeah. Okay. I feel the same. I think 7 out of 10 is actually a very good ranking. I think that I would rate Bad Beginning 5 out of 10, the Reptile Room 8 out of 10, only because I like snakes. And like that one just like makes brain go burr. But Wide Window is very, it is so good. Wide Window is very like the from like chapter 4, like once like they've met Sham, it is like it feels like an action movie almost, like, or not like action, but like it felt very like I didn't want to stop. I just kept going because it's like these moment to moment. There's not a couple days in between or anything. It's like, no, like from here, it's like throughout the night. It's like the next 24 hours. The rest is the like 2/3 of the book.
Right. It like once it starts, it does not stop until the book ends, and it's like it keeps that tension very well, I think,
with the leeches,
by like constantly introducing like the hurricane, the leeches. Captain Sham is like the one saving them. It's like it's a very intense read, and I liked it a lot.
There is a lot of out of the frying pan into the fire energy, and you just have to keep going until you shake out. So yeah. Well, that's good. Yay! Woohoo! I'm happy. This was good. You good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had fun. I got through all my notes. This was nice.
Cool. All right. Well, we will see you guys maybe next week. Probably, if that. It seems like we've been doing like once a week. If we can do more, actually, that might work out perfectly over the summer too. Because we may need more time, but we also can like be smart too on the nose and like release them once a week. But if we were like reading more and doing them sooner, we could have them prepared. It's a thing I've never done. Prepare content couldn't be me.
Prepared? Never.
Oh.
What do you mean we're not just winging it?
Just winging it. Just winging it at the Wide Window. The WWW. So join us. Hey guys, shut up. Join us next time for, which one is it?
Miserable Mill.
Miserable Mill. OSHA, don't watch, because you'll shut it down. Alright.
Bosses, don't watch. Don't get any ideas.
No bosses. If you participate in capitalism, this next one's not for you.
If you're a manager, you're on thin fucking ice, alright?
I'm like a manager. Supervisor, how about you supervise someone else? Alright.
Supervise these nuts?
That was good. Alright.